So, okay. So let's take a moment to to um to reflect on some of the challenges we're being encountered when designing a convolutional neural network, no? So, well, um, so you have probably noticed that when building a CNN, so we spend a lot of time tuning hyperparameters. Should I use 3 by 3 filter or 5 by 5 filter? So what style gives the best performance? How many layers is enough? It starts to feel more like an art than a science, no? So you just have to design on your own. What will be the performance? So just thinking of what will be the best, the number of layers, what will be the size of filter should I use. So it's just like experimenting what will be the best design, or what will be the depth of your network will be. So these kinds of choices, filter size, stride, depth, and padding, and the number of fully connected layers can be drastically impact performance, and often require trial and error or deep domain expertise. So this kind of tweaking can become very time consuming. So if you want to design your network well, that is very time consuming. So that's why you need another technique for designing certain CNNs. So the for this model here, the Inception architecture that is introduced by Google was motivated by the need to address this problem. So especially around selecting the right filter size instead of choosing a single size. Inception uses multiple filters in parallel in the same layer, letting the network decide what works best during training. Okay, so what if we didn't have to commit to just one filter size? So what if we could let the model itself learn which one are most useful? So here, so this is the Inception network, and Inception network is one of the key milestones in the evolution of deep learning architectures, particularly for image classification tasks. So, take let's start with a bit of history here. So, the Inception V1 network, also known as GoogleNet, was introduced by the Google researchers, especially the CGD paper, no, in 2014. So this is the authors of the this Inception model here. So it gained a lot of attentions when it achieved a state-of-the-art performance and won the ILSBRC year 2014, and which is one of the most prestigious competitions in computer vision history, the ImageNet Large Scale Visual Recognition Challenge, the ILSBRC. Now, why was Inception such a big deal? So unlike traditional CNNs that stack layers like BGG, so the Inception model was designed to improve both computational efficiency and accuracy by allowing the network to extract multiple scale features at each layer. Okay, so let's take a look at this diagram. On the left, we see the naive version of the Inception module. So this module applies 1 by 1, 3 by 3, and 5 by 5 convolutions in parallel to the same input. Okay? Then, along with 3 by 3 max pooling. So the idea here is to let the network decide which filter size works best for a particular field feature. Okay. However, there's a problem with the naive approach. So it's computationally expensive, especially with larger than 5 by 5 because they have more parameters and required more operations. That's that brings us here on this diagram, which shows the optimization version of the inception module. So here we introduce one by one convolutions before the larger ones. So this act as a dimension reduction layers, reducing the number of input channels, which drastically cuts down computation while preserving the key information. So essentially, um, they help they help make the model both faster and deeper. So the final outputs from all the branches are then concatenated together and passed to the next layer. So to wrap up in this section, so the Inception network was a huge step forward in CNN design because it tackled the challenge of computational costs while still allowing the model to be expressive and deeper. So it is allowed. It also a great example of how combining different convolution sizes in parallel can help capture more complex spatial patterns in image. So to continuing our discussion on the inception network, this slide illustrates how the architecture uses multiple filter sizes in parallel to extract features at the different levels of detail. So as you can see in this image, so we start the feature map of size of 28 by 28 by 192. That's the input coming from the previous layer. So the idea behind the inception module is to apply multiple convolutional convolution filters of different sizes simultaneously, as well as max pooling operation. So each of these operations captures different types of information. So for one by one convolution are mostly used for dimension reduction and capturing fine-grained patterns. 3 by 3 convolutions are more balanced and capture medium range dependencies, and 5 by 5 convolutions extract coarser, more abstract features, but they are more computational expensive. And max pooling captures the most dominant features in a region. So what's the key here is that we're using the same padding and a slide of one, so the spatial dimension is remain. So alright, so let's talk about how the biggest challenges with the original Inception architecture, the computational or the computation cost. So in the previous slide, so we saw that the Inception module applies multiple filters like 1 by 1, 3 by 3, and 5 by 5 in parallel. While this helps the network learn at multiple scales, so there's a hidden cost, especially when larger filters like 5 by 5 here, no? So take a look at this visual here, where starting at 28 by 28 by 192 input volume here, if we want to apply 32 filters on a size of 5 by 5 on this input, that's a massive number of computations. So the calculations looks like we have 28 by 28 by 32 times 5 by 5, then the number of depth here, 192. So we have 120 million operations in this case. So this is just a single layer of 5 by 5 filters. And remember, we also have other filters and pooling and max pooling happening in parallel. So how do we reduce this computational load while still keeping the benefits of multi-scale filtering? So in this case, we will use the one by one convolutions. So these are also called the bottleneck layers, and they are used to reduce the depth of the input before we apply expensive operations like 5 by 5 convolutions. For example, we can reduce the 192 channels down to 32 or 64 using a 1 by 1 convolutions, and then apply a 5 by 5 filter, um 5 by 5 filters, and it will be greatly reducing the number of computations. So in this simple trick here of dimensionality reduction via one by one convolutions is made the inception module but deep and efficient. So in this slide, no, so the larger filters like 5 by 5 are powerful but costly. So uh, applying them directly results in a huge computation demands. So using the one by one convolutions, um, well, first helps reduce the depth in the input depth, making the operations more efficient without sacrificing learning capacity. Okay, so now that we understand how inception modules use multiple filter size in parallel, so let's take a closer look at one of the most powerful optimization using the exception architecture, the one by one convolutions as bottleneck layers. So in this case, so here shows how we can drastically reduce computation while preserving useful information from the input. Okay, so we start with the input of volume size 28 by 28 by 192, which is quite large in terms of depth. So if we were to apply a 5 by 5 convolution directly to the input, so it would be extremely expensive, but in terms of memory and processing time. So instead of this, we will use 5 by 5 directly to this input. So instead we first apply a one by one convolution. So what this does is reduce the depth from 192 down to 16 channels or filters, no, in this case. Think of it like compressing the information into a much more compact format. And how much computation does that cost? Only if you compute this one, so if we have 28 by 28 with and height times the 16 filters as a default, then 1 by 1 times 192 from this one, no, depth is 92. So we have 2.4 million operations, which is very manageable. So unlike before, no, it has 120 million operations if you just directly compute 5 by 5, no, in this case. So in this case, we first compute it with 1 by 1 uh, filter here. So we have a reduction of 2 point reduction result with 2.4 million, which is very manageable. Then we apply the expensive 5 by 5 convolutions. Then, but this time only 16 channels only instead of 192. Um this second step now takes 10 million operations instead of something like 120 million. So as you can see, it is shrink, no, na shrink the number of operations. Instead of 120, right now it is now 10 million. Instead, you will just directly convolve using this 5 by 5 to the input, it produces 120 million operations. So if you have this step, the bottleneck layer here, we have 1 by 1 by 16 filters. So it will have you this 2.4 million operations. Then after this bottleneck layer, so if you apply the 5 by 5 by 32 filters here, so we have 10 million in total. In total operations, we have 1.4 million operations versus the previous operation in the recent slide, which is 120 million. So this is a very optimized one, no? And so it is almost a 10% 10 times reduction cost, no, in this case. So well, this bottleneck trick, shrinking the representation before applying expensive filter, is what allows the Inception architecture to be both deep and efficient. To summarize this process, so we first shrink the depth with a 1 by 1 convolution or this bottleneck layer here. Then we apply the larger 5 by 5 convolution to the smaller representation. So this drastically reduces the computation without losing much information. And that is how the Inception module stays computationally efficient while still being expressive. Okay? So now that we've seen how 1 by 1 convolutions can be help reduce computational costs, so let's take a look how everything comes together in the full inception block. So this diagram gives us a clear breakdown of what's happening inside a single inception module. So the input to this block is an activation volume from the previous 28 by 28 by 192 in this case. From here, the input is split into 4 parallel paths, no? So what we have here is so each path is as you can see here. So each path extracts different types of features. So right now, so path 1 is this one is the simplest. So we apply 1 by 1 convolution directly. So it outputs 64 channels, keeping the spatial dimensions by 28 by 28, no, in this case. So this helps capture fine details and also acts as a lightweight feature extractor. The path 2 here is so we reduce first um the depth using the 1 by 1 convolution with 96 filters. Then we apply the 3 by 3 convolution. So this is a great example of the bottleneck technique was talked about earlier, reducing the number of channels before doing a more expensive operation. So the output is 28 by 28 by 128. So then in this case here, so we very similar idea, but instead of 3 by 3, we use the 5 by 5 convolution, which is more expensive. So we reduce the depth by 16 filters. Then we apply the 5 by 5 filters here. So this results into 28 by 28 by 32. And this one is the, in this part performs 3 by 3 max pooling. So which tried 1 and some padding. So the spatial size stays 28 by 28. So then we apply 1 by 1 convolution to reduce the depth here, no? And add more nonlinearity. So this also outputs 28 by 32. So use 32 filters of 1 by 1 by 192. So what happens next here is that all of these outputs from each 4 paths are concatenated along the depth dimension here, no? So it is total, in total we get 64, 128, 32, and 32. So we have 256 channels, resulting 28 by 28 by 256. So in this case, So we have a total volume here that is 28 by, sorry. Let me use my pen. So, okay. So what we have here is we have the total volume output here is 28 by 256. So the 256 is the total of all of these depths here. Okay? And what's next? So okay, so this structure allows the network to extract multi-scale features from fine edge to broader patterns. So keep computational efficient. So thanks to the one by one convolutional bottleneck layers here, and preserve spatial dimensions by using the same padding across all paths. And finally, combining all these features to form a rich representation of the input. So this modular design is what made Inception network both deep and scalable, enabling them to perform incredibly well on large scale image recognition tasks like ImageNet. Okay, so let me remove this one. Okay, so next is the Inception design. So now let's take a look now. So in this diagram here, so we're breaking down the internals of the Inception block. So let's zoom out at these corners here, on these blocks here, and take a look of the full architecture of the GoogleNet paper. So just check this one, no? The link here about this paper. So what you see on this diagram, so um this is the first page of the paper, no, in this case, and this one is the GoogleNet that is, and this one is proposed on 2014, no? The ImageNet competition in 2014, and you can just check this one, no? This paper. So as you can see, what we just seen on this diagram here is the visual overview of the entire GoogleNet architecture. So the model is built by stacking multiple inception blocks. So as you can see here, this is the inception blocks here, back to back, allowing it to go deep, no? And we have 22 layers in deep. So the blue blocks here represent one of those inception modules. So the red boxes here, so this highlight the inception modules, no, in this case. And as you can see, this, I think this one are the max pool in this case. Then this one in pink is the auxiliary classifiers, or they call it the side branches. So this make the early predictions and more, and are only active during training, no, in this case. This is the regularization, no, effect, no. And what else? So well, this acts the regularization, no. So this prevent the vanishing gradient, and this make the model converge faster. And what else? Well, think of them as this one is the mini networks, so that help guide the main model during training, but they are removed during inference. So this just for regularization purposes. So why this design works so well? So it combines multi-scale feature extraction from the inception blocks with deep supervision, no, by using these auxiliary classifiers, and maintains computational efficiency. So thanks to the bottleneck here, no, as you can see in these inception blocks, the one by one convolutions. So all of this made by Google Linet. a game changer in in deep learning and a foundation for faster architectures like Inception V3 and Inception ResNet. So just check the paper here, and how they designed this one. Well, we already tackled this Inception blocks here, and just check how they use the regularization effect. Okay, next would be um, okay. So what we have here is the history of the Inception network model. So as you can see, we already walked through to the okay. So Inception V1 came out on 2014. So it is referred as the Google Net. So this version was heavily influenced by the network in network conception, or the concept, no, network in network concept that introduced the idea of inception modules. That's what we discussed recently. The inception modules, a way to process the information at multiple scales simultaneously. Well, you can read this paper here, and for inception v2, is also in 2014. So built on this by introducing the batch normalization. So by adding batch normalization, so it is a kind of regularization technique which help improve the training speed and stability. So as you can see, no, in if you have a benchmark CNN model, if you want to improve a certain model, so you can add sample batch normalization. You can recreate the the model, like example this inception v2, by just adding the batch normalization, it improves the scale speed and stability. So if you want to make a thesis or research on this, so you can experiment other techniques for regularization that will helps other models. So next we have inception v3. So the paper title here is this one in 2015. So this version further refine the design with factorized convolutions and reducing the number of parameters and improve efficiency. So well, Inception V3 is just the same as what they did in the Inception V1. So just they just updated the optimization technique regarding the convolution, no, to minimize the operations and the number of parameters. And next we have is the Inception V4. So exception before actually is one I already used, no, when I was in my master's. So this one is a really good model. So along with the introduction of the Inception ResNet, so which combine Inception modules with residual connections. So it's kind of blending the best of Inception and ResNet architecture. It is a hybrid version of Inception and ResNet. So they combine this one to create this the new hybrid model Inception V4. So by blending these models, so they brought better performance with deeper networks. And if you're interested in the next overview of this version, so you can check the paper, no, regarding of this one, and also this one, no, this link here that I provided. So well, that's a quick summary of the Inception model's development. So these architectural improvements over time show how deep learning models evolve, not just being getting bigger, but by becoming smarter and more efficient. Okay, so as you can see here, it is just a meme, but uh, ever wonder why the Inception model is called Inception? So well, the name is actually inspired by the movie Inception. Yes, that one with Leonardo DiCaprio, where they keep going deeper into layers of dreams. So that scene became a meme with a quote, "We have to go deeper." Believe it or not, the authors of the Inception paper actually cited this meme in the context of convolutional neural networks. So they were talking about the need for networks to go deeper, to go deeper, meaning more layers to improve performance. But as we know, deep networks tend to get computational computationally expensive and harder to train. That's where the Inception architecture shines. So it was designed to go deep efficiently using Inception modules, and that let the network simulate a wide and deep structure without blowing up the computational cost. So yes, the name Inception is both technically reference to the pop culture nod. Okay? So next here is the efficient net. I think this is just this will be the last topic for topic 6. So okay, so efficient net is um is a little bit uh um this is what this network is quite confusing. So efficient net was introduced in 2019, no, by Google researchers again, and it brought a fresh perspective on how to scale convolutional neural networks more effectively. Okay, so traditionally, CNNs like ResNet or BGG are scaled up in a sort of brute force way, no? So you can increase the depth or increase the width, no? In this case. So if you increase the depth, meaning more layers, or increase the width, more filters per layer. Sometimes we also scale image resolution, but doing this manually is kind of it's kind of messy. So it involves trial and error. So it takes time to tune and often leads to suboptimal performance. Okay, so the authors ask a simple but powerful question. So what if there was a more principled way to scale CNNs? So that is the research question here. So instead of tweaking one's dimension at a time, they propose something called compound scaling without uniformly scales. So by using depth, width, and resolution together, using a compound coefficient, and this idea was tested through neural architecture and led to state-of-the-art results, but with a fewer parameters. So this is the paper, no, for EfficientNet. To sum up in this slide, so EfficientNet showed that small scaling strategies can outperform just making model bigger. So it's a great example of how thoughtful design can be more powerful than the row size. So if so to proceed with the what is the compound coefficient? So the compound scaling, instead of just scaling just one dimension, so we only making the network deeper or wider. So EfficientNet uses a method called compound coefficient to scale all three dimensions together: the width, the depth, and the resolution. So the width is a number of channels or filters in each layer. The depth is the um, how many layers the model has, and the resolution is the input image size. So this unified approach means that the model doesn't waste resources on unnecessary complexity in one area. So it stays balanced and efficient across all dimensions. So what is the big deal of this one? So because this strategy allowed the efficient net models to surpass the state-of-the-art accuracy while being up to 10 times better or 10 times more efficient. in terms of parameter and the floating point operations or flops. This means smaller models, faster inference, and lower resolution usage without sacrificing performance. So in short, compound scaling isn't just a clever trick, it's a principled strategy that helped redefine what efficient deep learning could look like. Okay? So let's now talk about one of the most important insights from the efficient net paper, which is the scaling. So traditionally, when we want a better performing CNN, so we scale it up by making it deeper or adding more layers or making it wider or increasing the number of channels or increasing the resolution of input images. But researchers found that just increasing one of these doesn't um, always give the best results. For example, if you make a network deeper but also widen it or increase the input or increase the input resolution, so you might hit diminishing returns or even hurt performance. So in the paper, no, or what did the EfficientNet team discover? So the team behind EfficientNet systematically studied the effects of scaling up each dimensions like the depth, the width, or and the resolution. So both independently and in combination. Okay. And what they find out, or what are the key findings here is that balancing all the three dimensions, scaling them together proportionally leads to the best overall performance. So this approach avoids overloading one part of the network and instead builds a well-rounded architecture. So, why is this important? Because this is how EfficientNet models achieve such incredible results. So, example like that is the high accuracy, less computational cost, and a more elegant and efficient design. So it's not just about making models bigger. So it's all about making them smarter and more balanced. Okay. So next is okay, so now let's dive into how the researchers actually found the best way to scale models. And it all starts with something called grid search. So what is grid search? So grid search is basically a method where we find or where we systematically test a range of different scaling combinations, like making the network deeper, wider, or using higher resolution to see what works best under a fixed resource constraint. So, for example, imagine you have twice the flops available. So, the grid search helps us find the most efficient way to use the extra power by adjusting the network dimensions properly. So, how did they use it? So they didn't just randomly trying scale dimensions. Instead, they use grid search to figure out which combinations of width and depth and resolution gave the best performance for a given resource budget. So This process determine the optimal scaling coefficients. Okay, so meaning how much wider or deeper and higher resolution the model should be. So here, what happens next? So once they had once they had those coefficients, so they apply them to scale up. Okay, to scale up the baseline network. So this allowed them to grow the model in a balanced way and principled way. So without um, wasting resources or over complicating the architecture. So at the bot at the bottom, no, as you can see here, so the B, C, and D shows what happens if you only scale with the width, the depth, and the resolution. And the letter E shows compound scaling, where all three dimensions are scaled together, leading to a much better and more efficient network. So, in short, grid search helped the researchers build a smarter scaling strategy. And that's a big reason why efficient net models are so effective today. Okay, so now that we understand how compound scaling works, so let's look at how EfficientNet's actual architecture was built. So the first thing to note is that the compound scaling is very flexible. So it can actually be applied to any CNN architecture. For example, when they applied it to the mobile net, they saw um, 1.4% boost in accuracy. And when applied to ResNet, so they got a 0.7% boost. So this shows that the method isn't just tied to one model, so it can improve lots of existing networks. So the importance of the baseline network is that, however, the effectiveness of scaling heavily depends on how good the baseline network is. If you start with a strong, efficient baseline, the final scale model will be much better. Okay, so creating a new baseline is to build the best possible baseline. The researchers use the AutoML's MNAS framework. So this framework helps to automatically uh, search for the best architecture, optimizing both the accuracy and the efficiency at the same time. So it wasn't just manually designed. Okay, so the final architecture they came out with uses something called mobile inverted bottleneck convolution, which is very similar to MobileNet V2. So what's the key difference is that EfficientNet's version is slightly larger to match the higher flops budgets they were targeting, so giving it to the power needed for best performance. So in summary, EfficientNet isn't just smart scaling. So it also starts from a strong AutoML optimized baseline that is built for both speed and accuracy. And next would be for this one. So now let's take a closer look at the actual structure of the efficient net model. Okay, so we start at with an input image 224 by 224 by 3, which is a standard RGB image. So the first layer we see a 3 by 3 convolution layer. So this is used to quickly extract low level features like edges and textures from the image. Next, we have this MB MB blocks here, no? As you can see. So after the convolution, so the main part of the network is made up by this MB blocks. So NB blocks for mobile inverted bottleneck convolution. Okay? So the same efficient building blocks used in MobileNet or the MobileNet V2 rather. But now it is slightly expanded. So you will notice that the MBConv layers have different expansion factors and kernel sizes. So example like this, no, we have MBConv1 is 3 by 3. We have MBConv6 3 by 3, and the others we have also MBConv6 5 by 5. So these numbers indicate how much the feature maps are expanded inside the block and the size of the convolutional filters. Okay, so for feature map sizes, so as we go deeper into the network, you can see that we have, um, so you can see the feature map size gradually shrinks, no? From 112 by 112 by 32 and to 7 by 7, while the number of channels increases in this case. Okay, so this shrinking allows the network to capture more complex features while keeping computation efficient. Okay, so the final layers here. So finally, after passing through all the MB blocks, we end up with a small feature map uh, that is passed to a fully connected layer for classification. Example for this one, we have 39 classes here. So in short, EfficientNet uses a smart combination of depth, width, and resolution scaling, as you can see here. No? So backed by the MB blocks or the mobile inverted bottleneck convolution. So to build a model that is both highly accurate and extremely efficient. Okay. So next is the efficient net performance. So now let's talk about how efficient net actually performs compared to other well-known models. So for this performance overview, so what you are seeing here is a comparison of different models based on two important factors. So what we have here is we have the top one accuracy and the number of parameters. So top one accuracy is on the ImageNet dataset, and this one is the number of parameters in the model. So this is the x-axis. So ideally, so you want a model that's more accurate while being smaller and more efficient. So for the efficient net, as you can see here, notice this one on this somewhat purple curve here or pink curve here. So this is the efficient net starting from V0 and scaling up to V7. So as you move to from V0 to V7, um it consistently improves accuracy while keeping the number of parameters much lower, as you can see here. So I think this one is somewhat in between 60 and 80 million, the V7. Okay, and what else? For example, we have V1, EfficientNet V1, somewhat here, and it's almost reaches what accuracy? Somewhat, let's say this is 79 accuracy with just um, it's just less than example here. I think it's just less than 10 million. Okay, what we have here is we have the table here, no? So it has 79.1% and with the parameters for 7.8 million compared to ResNet 12, no? In this case, it has uh, it has 60 million, but the accuracy is 77.8%. Okay, so even compare the newer models like the CNET and the NASNet. So EfficientNet achieves higher accuracy with fewer parameters. So what is the key takeaway on this one is, well, thanks to the compound scaling method and optimized baseline architecture, so EfficientNet delivers state-of-the-art performance and thus it more efficiently than almost other models in its class. So in short, EfficientNet shows that vigor or the vigor in the network isn't always better. With smart design and scaling, you can achieve more with less. Okay, and I think that's all for topic 6. And stay tuned for the laboratory exercise for this topic. And have a good day, everyone.